test setup as it is. I have a battery charger over here charging a battery on the floor over there, and then that feeds a motor speed controller. That controls the speed of the pump. I'll show you that in a moment. This is how much power we're consuming, about 7.8 amps. 13.8 volts is being measured at the motor. There's the motor. This is our pump right here. Little temporary setup in the kitchen. And the pump is basically running into the sink. 9.2 gallons is what we're flowing right now. That is a good pump. That will cool off an intercooler in a heartbeat. So, how do I measure this? Well, it's kind of interesting. If you take a look, we have a new water flow meter, and this guy here is running about 9.2 gallons per minute. I consider this to be my 9-gallon mark right there. This is 10 gallons. In any case, I can control the speed with the variable motor controller, and the pump, by the way, is very quiet. You get this down here, 3 gallons a minute. This is about what I was able to get using my Bosch pump, the upgrade for the factory. The original pump was a 10 series. Ooh, jumps up on its own. This is a 90 series pump. The upgrade was a 30 series. Right now I'm running 3 gallons a minute. 3 gallons a minute is only consuming 1 amp at about 4 volts. Hard to focus on an LED. So I got the motor controller almost at the bottom. The head pressure is almost nothing. So in other words, there's almost no restriction. You can look at my diagram and see where the flow meter is, but this flow meter has a fair amount of restriction in it. And right now we're running 3 gallons a minute. And I'm only running 4 volts at about 1 amp. If I just crank this up a little bit, just like a couple of amps at 7 volts, my flow rate is 5 gallons a minute, which is incredible. I've got very little pressure drop on my head, but I'm flowing 5 gallons a minute through this device. And I can control the speed to anything I want. 6 gallons a minute, just a matter of twisting the old knobberoo. So here I am trying to make it level. 6 gallons a minute, only has about 1.5 pounds of head pressure. But golly gee, I'm only running 8.5 volts. This pump is the hot lick. I go up to 7 gallons a minute, and that's the flow through the pump. 7 gallons a minute, I'm running ahead of about 2.5 pounds. If I crank this thing up to full power, which according to the spec is about 13.6. Try to get it to 13.6, it's hard to adjust. I'm running 7.5 amps again. We're pushing up here about 9 gallons a minute in this particular test setup. This test setup has no restriction in it other than the little bit of restriction in the flow gauge meter and all the restriction in this big old water gauge. So right there is this test setup. Focus. And it's doing quite the job. This thing here is flowing like a horse. I mean, a garden hose is only 4 gallons a minute. This is twice that. And if you crank this thing down, even my golly to 12 volts, which is a poor day for your battery, we're running something over 8 gallons a minute, if we can focus on it. Come on, Ray. Focus. There we go. That's over 8 gallons a minute at only 12 volts. And this Series 90 pump, it's just quiet. I got it laying on a table here. If I pick it up, it's even quieter. You can't even hear it. I'm standing next to it. If it's vibrating on a table, a hard surface, you can barely hear it. So that's the test setup. We're going to start checking out the heat exchangers now that everything's set up, because once again I have almost infinite control here. I wanted 7 volts. Let me just get down to 7, just for giggles. I can control this thing with great precision. There we go. 2 amps roughly, 7 volts, and this thing's flowing like crazy. So even at 7 volts, this guy here is still running about 5 gallons a minute. That's pretty neat. And at full load, absolute full speed, I can get all the way up to a restriction of 5 pounds here. And oh, by the way, what will this pump handle? Well, if I ruin my hands here and get it all, come on, focus. If I get this thing restricted, I block it off, put my thumb over the end of it. Here it is running about 9 pounds of pressure. That's pretty amazing for this pump. Our old pump would have simply quit long ago. So I'll post this up and then we'll do some more testing here with actual heat exchangers. Parallel configuration and the stock series configuration. Later.